Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Live's Falcons vs. Commanders Week 6 post-game show. I'm your host, Kevin Knight, joined by some salty commenters today. My co-hosts, first of all, we got with us Jordan Watkins at Big 75 Jordan. Big 75 fella, not Big 75 Jordan. It could be a backup perhaps at some point. But Jordan, how are we feeling? Next question. Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely an issue we're going to get to for sure. Guys, we also have with us Adnan Ikic at Say Which Way. Adnan, how are you doing today? Yeah, and then after last night is, Caleb Williams even QB1. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, it's too early for draft takes. We're gonna avoid that as long as we can. But yeah, you guys saw it, right? Hold on. Yeah, let me double check. Yeah, let me see. It's very odd. Let's see if we can get this fixed up, folks. Thanks for letting me know. All right, try now, guys. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It was on the right input. I just had to reset it. But anyway, quick check-in here. We'll restart this real quick. Quick check-in. Jordan, how we doing?
Not good. Next question.
Not good. Okay, Adnan, how we doing?
Kevin's messing up our audio the way
Apparently.
that Arthur Smith and Desmond Ridder are messing up this offense right now.
There you go. I like that zinger. Yeah, guys, thank you for your patience. I don't know what happened. The input was correct, but just had to. Sometimes you just got to jiggle the cord, right? I mean, sometimes you got to plug and unplug, and other tech.
Can someone jiggle the cord of this offense then?
Yeah, that was going to be my transition. Actually, that's a great transition. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for your patience. Thanks for tuning in to talk about this very dumb team that it's probably going to be like this a lot this year. Unfortunately, it's not what we were expecting in terms of what we thought would be to blame. But I think I was ready for some frustrations. But it's never quite the way you think it is. But before we get too far, guys, want to get you a quick word from our sponsor, BetOnline.ag. Folks, football is back, and BetOnline is your number one information source for all your sports wagering information, with all the up-to-the-minute stats, news, scores, and matchup breakdowns that you need. You can get the latest game odds, spreads, and totals from the NFL, college football, other sports as well at your fingertips with BetOnline's real-time updates on statistics, news, and odds from week 1 all the way to the college football playoff and Super Bowl. BetOnline gives you access to the best football promotions and contests available anywhere online. So head to that website today, betonline.ag, or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Just remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so as you guys all know, frustrating day offensively. I think the quick urge will, of course, be to just dogpile on Ridder, and he definitely deserves a lot of the blame today, but I don't really think it was just him today. I think and I wanted to definitely get Jordan's take on this because, Jordan, I know you've played a lot of football, so let's go ahead and start with the sort of the elephant in the room, which is like, what's to blame for the clock management in these situations, in your opinion? I mean, obviously we don't know for sure, but is it a play call, like Arthur Smith's not getting the call in? Is Ridder not paying attention to the clock? I mean, obviously at some point it's Arthur Smith's responsibility to call a timeout, but what's your sort of take on where you think the majority of the blame lies in these sort of drive killing clock management errors today?
We know where the blame lies. It's coaching. That's where it lies. There's no other way to sugarcoat it, especially with how the league goes now. I think communication is supposed to be cut off at 15, 14 seconds, something like that on the headset. You don't have a play in. There's only so much you can do offensively. And as a fan base, I would implore everyone to think about it this way. We saw an MVP quarterback in 2016, one of the most dire moments of the game, not have control to call something at the line. I know this is a completely different coaching staff. different situation, all of that. But that being said, I bring that up because this is a second-year guy. If you want to look at his starts, it's a first-year guy. Desmond Ridder, no matter how much you want to hope and see and wish that he has control at the line like this, it's not going to happen. So it really fully is on the coaching that you get the plays in late. It's on the coaching that we go for 2 and we don't have to go for 2. It's on coaching that Mike Hughes doesn't fair catch the ball, which saves us a 2-minute warning and an extra timeout. There's just so many different clock management and also just game decisions right now where it was just so much lack of attention to detail on the coaching standpoint. It was so frustrating.
Yeah, and I think the box score is going to lead people to just dogpile on Ridder. And yes, Ridder can't throw those freaking interceptions after the bad coaching errors. You got to get the ball out of the end zone. You got to get the ball past the line of scrimmage. These are little things that you have to still be able to do. But I think it's a half and half thing for me, where I'm not gonna say this is 100% Ridder's fault. The turnovers are Ridder's fault, but the situations that led to those turnovers were very much influenced by other factors that weren't Ridder's fault. And it's a lot to expect your young quarterback to get the play call late and then be able to effectively get that stuff out there and get everything on time. It's a lot to ask when you're behind as a coach. And, it's frustrating to watch because Ridder needs all the help he can get, clearly. This is a young quarterback. We know he's not among the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL in terms of his arm talent, in terms of his, running ability. He's a rather traditional quarterback. He does have some plus athleticism, but he needs everything around him to be set up correctly, especially when he's this young and not super far along in his development, where he doesn't read the field particularly quickly. Last week was kind of an exception, but for the most part, we've seen him be kind of a tick slow in his reads. So if he's already behind the 8 ball and he doesn't, when he gets the snap that late, he doesn't even have time to check the defense pre-snap. He doesn't have they can't call motion. He doesn't have time to even look back there to see the coverage. And then he's just got to make a quick decision with what to do with the football. And in a critical down like that, it's inexcusable. But Adnan, I want to get your take on that too. I mean, are you levying sort of equal blame on the staff here, or do you think it's more one or the other this week?
No, I'm equally blaming both right now, because we know what Desmond Ridder is. Like you said, Desmond Ridder needs all the help he can get, and we know that with Desmond Ridder, you have to put him into a favorable situation for him to succeed. This isn't Matt Ryan in his prime. This isn't, current day Patrick Mahomes or current day, Justin Herbert or Josh Allen. This isn't a guy that's going to elevate everyone else around him. This is a guy where you put him into the system and you hope that the system can elevate him. And the coaching staff absolutely did him no favors. Now, you're correct. The interceptions were inexcusable. You can't throw 3 interceptions. The defense kept giving you a chance to come back over and over. The defense didn't look great, and the pass rush was absolutely non-existent for a lot of that first half up until that 2-minute warning, that 2-minute drill where they got back-to-back sacks. And congratulations to Calais Campbell on getting his 100th career NFL sack. That was a little bit of a silver lining today. That was cool to see. But this is one of those situations where the defense completely locked down. They completely locked in the second half. They gave you chance after chance after chance, and then you just pissed it away with mistake after that fourth quarter. High school teams would not make some of those mental errors in that fourth quarter. And yes, the coaching staff, you cannot have a delay of game in that situation. 3rd and goal, 3 yards away, and then you can't almost have a delay of game the very next play, which then leads to an interception. So yeah, absolutely. That's I'm putting blame on both Ridder and Arthur Smith. Ridder looked really good on that first drive. After that, he started looking very shaky, but we know that that's who Desmond Ridder is. Well, we know not to really, expect anything much more, but Arthur Smith has got to do a better job of putting him into a better position to succeed. And if that means getting him the play call earlier so that he's not, up against it in the last few seconds, then you have to do that. And the other person that really deserves some blame here is Drew Dahlman.
Yeah.
Like Drew Dahlman, a lot of those snaps were so low. I counted multiple snaps which were incredibly low. That immediately puts the quarterback behind the eight ball. And then on that last interception, that second delay of game, like they were ready. Like he was ready for the snap. Ridder was clapping for it. He was looking for it. Play clock hits 0. It's another low snap. And, lo and behold, it's an interception. Again, cannot throw that pick if you're the quarterback. But Drew Dahlman is just, it's sort of reminding me of Mike Person a little bit. It's not that
snaps. Yeah.
It's not that dire. Person had 4 fumbles in 2015, the most among any non-skill position players. But you have got to do a better job there of setting your quarterback up. You cannot put your quarterback behind the eight ball like that. Like I feel like Desmond Ridder, did fail, but the circumstances around him helped lead to that failure as well.
Yeah, I think so. It's not everybody's always going to want to distill this down to one person to blame, but it's multifaceted, and I think we've sort of honed in on the 3 biggest contributors here. And I do want to touch on one other thing shortly, but yeah, I mean, obviously everyone that was mad and thinks Desmond Ridder is awful is immediately going to be back on that he needs to be benched, and we all know that he's not going to be benched this week. I mean, I know Arthur Smith was very frustrated. You could see it on the sideline with that red zone interception in the end zone. That was Ridder's worst play of the day. I will also say that first interception that was supposed to go to Bijan instead of Van Jefferson, I believe that was a mistake on the route, because if you look closely at the play, I don't know. What do you think, Jordan? I'm curious.
I don't know. I mean, the reason why I say I don't know, and this is where I'm getting frustrated. There's only one interception in this game where I blame Desmond Ridder for. The one in the end zone, inexcusable. That can't happen. The first one, like you said, miscommunication. Now, where was it? Was it miscommunication with Van Jefferson, who just got here?
Right.
Or is it with
they trusted him a lot?
It's one of the two, right? So I don't blame Des for that. That last one, obviously, again, like I said, I put it in a situation, and this is for everyone who thinks I'm a Desmond hater out here. Look at me caping, I guess, if you want to put it that way, for 2 of his interceptions.
So yeah,
I only put one fully on him, and I wanted to go back to a point real quick. Adnan, I know you talked about you hit on this and talking about minor things and how that goes. Well, when minor things, especially when it comes to game ops, happen, that's on coaching. That is a coaching thing. I've seen games where we've won because of it, games we've lost because of it. You can look at what Mario Cristobal in Miami did. You can say, all right, well, the running back didn't have to fumble. All right, cool, that's true. He shouldn't have been in a position to fumble. You can look at Oregon just the other day, Dan Lanning going forward in all those 4th downs. Yes, could you have some passes back from Bo Nix where they have the completions and they still win the game? Sure. Should those positions even happen in the first place, especially like the last one that Oregon went for, where Washington hadn't scored or done anything on their last 4 possessions? You absolutely have to look at that and put it in consideration. And so, again, that's why for me, I go back to this game, I look at it, and what's so frustrating, especially from a coaching standpoint, we were just praising Arthur Smith for what he did last week, and not just what he did, how the offense looks. It finally looked like, okay, it looks like we're finally getting in a groove. We're getting in a rhythm. This is what we all expected this offense to look like. Drake London's getting his targets. Kyle Pitts getting his targets. Yeah. The spacing looks a lot better. And then
your fantasy teams are happy.
Your fantasy teams are happy. But then all of a sudden this week, what all of the work and momentum that you did and worked for a week ago, you took it all back this week. And I mean, obviously the other big part of it too is that we still haven't talked about the inefficiency of this offense to get anything on the ground the last 2 weeks. They did it again for the majority of this game. So that's where the frustration is for me is, and I know, Kevin, you know this more than most. I had questions about the coaching coming into the year. I said, I need to see it. I need to see something this year based off what you did last year. And I had my questions about some of the games we lost last year too. I need to see it this year to have me believe that this is the group, this is the head coach that we need to get to that next level. And for the most part, and today was a great example as to some question marks and head scratchers as to why, I'm still not sold.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. And we need, like, at this point, it's just like he's not coaching up the offense. Like we should be like last year, it was, you could argue that, like, oh, with all the pieces and all the quarterback problems, like getting this offense to mostly average was sort of a miracle, and the defense as well. This year, like, you have better everything and it's still not coming together. And like also the run game, like if the only time you can run the ball well is like at the end of games when you've bludgeoned people for like 20 carries for 20 yards, and then you can, and if that's the only time you can run, you're a bad run offense. Like you need to at least be getting production out of those runs early in the game.
There's that, and then there's also predictability. And this is where again, I want to go back to some similarities I saw from last year to this year too. I keep going back to this game. I know I've done it before. I'm gonna do it again. When we played against Baltimore, we're right down there. We had 2 chances to win that game. Tyler Algier is doing a great job running the ball. You take out Tyler Algier on 3rd down. You bring in Cordero. What do you think as a defense? And I'm asking y'all this. I'm asking everybody in the chat. The shout out to everybody in the chat. If you see that change, and we all know for the most part they use Tyler Algier one-dimensionally. So you take him out, you put somebody else in the game. What kind of play do you think is going to happen? Probably going to be a pass. Okay. Boom. So you take 3rd down happen, didn't get it. 4th down, you bring back in Tyler Algier. What do you think as a defense is going to happen? Going to run the ball.
Right.
Now, fast forward to the 2-point conversion situation, which again, terrible decision. But what do? You don't get it on 3rd down. Right, because you threw the ball to, I mean, it's not 3rd down. You throw the ball in the first conversion, try to get the jump ball with Drake London. You don't get it. Here comes Tyler Algier. What in the world do you think is going to happen with Desmond Ridder under center, Keith Smith in at fullback, and Tyler Algier in the backfield? It's going to be a run. Like, for someone, and again, like I said, I keep going back to coaching with this, and I know it's not just all on Arthur Smith, but I want to keep hitting this point home. As someone, as we always love to talk about, as an offensive guy, he's supposed to be this play designer, play caller, that is this and that. Well, one, you can't be that obvious. And then also you have to have a feel for the game. The offensive line was not getting push all game up to that point. But now you're expecting them, when it's a gotta-have-it situation, 1 yard,
line,
where the defense is in their mindset is defend every single blade of grass. That's a phrase. I know it's turf, but the phrase is defend every single blade of grass. You're going to try to run the ball right up the middle of them. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
And Algier still had a chance to get it. I mean, that was a great play by Washington's defense. But, like, yeah, I mean, part of me, like,
gripe.
Yeah, go ahead, Adnan.
That's my gripe. So I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me here, and a lot of people are going to disagree with me in the chat. They're going to disagree with me on Twitter. I didn't hate going for 2 there. Analytically, like, and I know analytically, what we're going to use the word. A lot of people are against, the analytics, like take the extra point. I was 50-50 on it. If you kick the extra point, I'm completely okay with it. But clearly, Arthur Smith was going to go for 2. Like, he had his heart set on going for 2 points in that situation, or eventually in some situation. So if we scored the touchdown there, we're down by 7 points, and then if we score a touchdown again on the second attempt, or on the second drive, then he would have gone for 2 for the win. Like, that's clear to see. Like, Arthur Smith had his heart set on that. So there, analytically, you go for 2, and if you don't get the 2-point conversion, then the game is still alive. You can still go for 2 later on and tie it, instead of if you go for 2 later on and you don't get it, the game is just completely over. My issue was the play call there. My issue was specifically the play call to Tyler Algier. And I know that Tyler Algier, had a more efficient day than Bijan Robinson, but I'm not a fan of taking off your best players in high leverage situations. And I don't, and this is just in general on the season. We all like Tyler Algier. I don't think Tyler Algier is as good as Bijan Robinson. And Tyler Algier, like you said, he had a chance there, especially from the 1 yard line. He sort of goes down on first contact. I would have much rather had Bijan Robinson in there. So my gripe there is more so with the play call as opposed to going 4-2 in that situation. And I know you can disagree with me. If you do disagree with me, so be it. That's fine. Like, hindsight is hindsight. But Also, if you hit that, if you get that, then you're down by 6. Later on, you don't have to go for a touchdown. You can go for a field goal, and then you're down by just a field goal. So there's a lot of factors that play into that situation. But, like hindsight is hindsight. I'm completely fine with the decision to go for 2. I'm not fine with what they did afterwards.
Yeah.
So I'm happy. I was gonna say I'm happy we're having this conversation because I know it's happened in a lot of different sports for a lot of different teams, right? The analytics versus field. I'm always gonna be in the mindset, and so like this is not me like just throwing out what Adnan said. It's not. I'm saying this is where you have different schools of thought, and we have 2 different schools of thoughts on this call, which again, I love that. I'm always going to be in the mindset of analytics should play into your decision making in your feel of the game. It should not be the full decision of your feel of the game and what you do. And I say that in terms of football. I say it in terms of baseball, basketball, whatever sport you want to pick, right? And this is something that comes up a lot. So again, my thing is, here's the feel of the game. Like I get what the numbers say. The feel of the game at that point, you have the momentum. The defense was finally starting to look like that defense again that we've loved and we've seen for the majority of this season to this point. If you get 7, you kick the ball off, you have all the momentum, let's go ahead, let the defense do what they do, get off the field, boom, here you are, you're down 7. Even if that means you're not in a situation to take the lead right there, I don't care. I don't care. Like, have a feel for the game and how the game and the ebbs and flows of it, how it's going, and make a decision off of that. Like, the numbers can't tell you everything that goes on in the game. I've never seen a computer go out there and play a double team. I've never seen a computer run, play a cover 0. I've never seen a computer run cover 2. I've never seen a computer try to run an inside slant, an inside fade, all these different things. They can help tell you about what's going on, but there's got to be that human intuition of somebody that knows and feels the game and understands what's going on that has to make a decision. Yeah, use all of that to help you make the call. But if you're just going to go off of that to make a call, you're wrong. It's the same reason why Brandon Staley is probably going to get fired soon in Los Angeles. The same reason why you look at a lot of coaches right now in this game, whether collegiate level, NFL level, it's not working out. Use your instincts and intuition of what's going on and how a game's going to make those calls. It can't just be the computer told me this.
No, and
that's fine. And I mean, like we're on 2 different stances on this one. I'm just saying, if Arthur Smith had his heart set on going for 2, no matter what, and it seemed like he did. Like if you play for overtime, that's different. But the team was not playing for overtime at all. If you are going to go for 2, then you go for 2 after the first touchdown. Like it's you don't go for 2 after the second touchdown, because it gives you a chance to correct the mistake if you don't get it. If you don't get it after the first touchdown and you score the second touchdown, you still have a chance to go for 2 and tie it. Versus if you go for 2 after the second touchdown and you don't get it, the game is over. Like, you're down. Like, it's done. You have to recover an onside kick.
But that's my whole point in terms of why I say it. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't agree with it because
you prefer
of what
like
you just said.
Kicking the 2 extra points.
Go ahead, just kick the extra points. Kick the extra points.
No, we do have a very good kicker.
Trust your defense, the way the defense has played this whole year, and let's keep it pushing.
That's a different discussion because that means you are playing like. That means that you're okay with going to overtime, but Arthur Smith was not okay with going for overtime. He was
I know he was okay with losing the way he called this game. I agree. He was okay with losing.
To go for the win there. Like, no matter what, he was going to go for the win. And if your heart is set on going for 2, and I mean, it's easy to criticize in hindsight. It's easy to criticize when it doesn't work out. If it did work out, it's easy to praise. Yeah. But if you are going to go for 2, you always go for 2 after the first touchdown, not the second touchdown. Like,
from that angle, it does make sense because it's
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. I was gonna say, here's the way I look at things like that. If it works out, I say, oh, thank goodness it worked out. I don't turn around and say, hey, great call. Yeah. I say, oh, thank goodness that worked out. I still don't agree with it, but I'm happy we benefited. So either way, and I'm saying again, just for me, just giving some context to the situation, that's how I look at it. That wasn't a hindsight thing for me. I didn't like it in the
you
moment.
disagreed it.
I
from
don't
the
like
whole,
it now.
Yeah.
I still, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's just two different philosophies. Yeah, it's two different philosophies.
Yeah, and that's correct. And
Yeah.
from my viewpoint, if we are again down by 14, and if you do not want overtime, and again, like a different discussion can be made if it's should we go to overtime or not. I'm completely okay with going to overtime, but the head coach does not want to go to overtime. Like the head coach wants to go for the win. Like he does not. I don't know whether it's he doesn't trust Desmond Ridder in an overtime setting, whether it's the offense is more gassed or whatever. Like he does not want to go to overtime. The discussion changes when it comes to overtime versus going for the win. But if you are going for the win there versus no overtime, I think you always kick it after the first touchdown, or not kick it. You always go for 2 after the first touchdown versus the second touchdown, because it gives you a chance to correct that mistake.
Yeah. At least it's consistent. Like Arthur Smith has played this way all season. So if you're going to be aggressive consistently. So I will at least applaud them for that. They've made that their mentality, and they're trying to do it. It hasn't always worked for them, certainly. But I think you just need to stay consistent with what you're doing. So if they're going to be consistently this aggressive offense, and I think it makes sense. I think you could make two different arguments, right? I think your argument, Jordan, for going for the overtime because you trust your defense to make the stops, I think that makes sense.
Yeah,
but I think you could also
okay with that.
Yeah,
and I would have been completely okay if they kicked 2 extra points, went to overtime. They're like, I'm not saying that you're wrong on that, but I'm just saying from a perspective of that he was going to go for 2. Like you can clearly see he was going to go for 2. You don't do it after the second touchdown.
So I get that. Here's where I'm coming from though, again, with it, because I know we also talked about this too. The probability, and this is where I'm saying again, use the numbers to help your cause or help your decision, not make it for you. Let's just say, because you do have to think about this or think about things like this in terms of being a head coach. Okay. If either one of those two situations, let's just say we get 2 touchdowns, you don't get one of those 2-point conversions, you're down by 6 now, right? So either way, the way it's looking, no, excuse me, if you get the first
8.
touchdown, if you get the first touchdown and get a 2-point conversion, you're down by 6. It's not a guarantee you're going to get another touchdown. So you might still have to look at a situation where you're trying to drive and get 2 more scoring drives just to get 2 field goals, which then you're still going to overtime. And there's just so many ways I look at it where it's like, let's just, if overtime is a possibility, and I think all 3 of us agree, and everyone in the chat, once again, shout out everybody in the chat, here is saying like that there was a chance, like when it was 24-10, you're going later into the game. It's like, okay, let's just try to tie this up. Let's win it later down the road. That was my mindset. And again, I had that mindset because of how the defense was starting to look once again. And with that being said, is you might still put yourself behind the 8 ball of you might need 2 field goals, even if you get that 2-point conversion.
But I also think being down by 6 versus down by 7 does make a difference. For example, you look at the very end of the play, or you look at pre-interception for Desmond Ridder. Okay. So after that delay of game where they went back to the 7-yard line, if you are only down by 6, I don't think that's 4-down territory. I don't think you need to force it into the end zone, because if you kick a field goal there, you're down by 3. You get the ball back, you only need a field goal to tie it, versus being down by 4. If you get the ball back, then you still need a touchdown to tie it or you need a touchdown to win it no matter what. Okay. I think it's easier to get 2 field goals than it is to get a touchdown in a sense. Because to get a field goal, you just need to get to the 35-yard line. You're in Younghoe Koo's range. And they did go back down, and they were in field goal range on that last drive.
They literally could have won this game so many times. I don't know that the 2-point thing, it wasn't the most egregious problem with the offense. I mean, it's a very interesting discussion, certainly. But
right, and even with this discussion, because you were just talking about how if you watch the game, Arthur Smith made it be known he was going to go for 2 there. He's going to go for it on 4th down. He's being extra aggressive. So even in the situations that you're talking about, I can't then say, oh, well, then in this situation, he was not going to be aggressive. Like it's either one way or the other, which is, again, my whole situation of all of this. And I asked the question not of him being aggressive. I asked the question of why. And I say that in terms of why are you being aggressive? What are you looking at? Or what information are you looking at in terms to be aggressive? If it is analytics, like what we're talking about right here, I'm not with it. I can't ride with a coach that just relies on some computers and numbers to make decisions like that without having a feel and a tune. And I'm not saying this just about Arthur Smith. This is just football, like generic football for me right now, right? When we're talking about this, I need you to have a sense and feel for how the game is going on. And so, but again, just to the point in the conversation that we're talking about him being aggressive. I still can't say, even with the field goal, that he wouldn't be aggressive there.
I don't think he would, because you're from the 7. You're playing from the 7-yard line versus to go for 2, you were from the 1-yard line or from the 2-yard line. So there's a difference between needing to get 2 yards versus needing to get 7 yards. If you're saying that he would have gone for it on 4th and goal anyway, down by 6, like I would have completely disagreed with that call down 6 versus down 7 or 8. Because if you're down 7 or 8, you go for the touchdown because you have to score 7 points. But if you're from the 7, like getting 7 yards and getting 1 yard are two very different things.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm like I said, I'm going off the point that you made in terms of, if you watch the game, you know that Arthur Smith was going to be aggressive. So I can't rule out the fact that if that changes, that he still wouldn't be aggressive there. And there's another point too. Shout out one of my friends, Glenn. He actually texted me about this. If you are in a certain situation, because of what we do and how we score, don't score, you also change up what Washington does offensively, which I think is something that we haven't gone into in this whole conversation about things there. Like there's the other part about this too, where it's not only just what are you going to do when you have the ball, what are you going to force the other team to do? Right? Like the only team that made the Falcons use timeouts in this game were the Falcons. You know, like we agree on that part. So, like, what do the Commanders do? How does field position look different? If we use timeouts, if they're only up 3, we're running the ball, or they're running the ball. Does the Mike Hughes inability to call a fair catch, does that bother us as much? Because we still have the 2-minute warning. There's just so many things that go up in the air with all this. But like I said, at the end of the day, I just, and I know we're eventually at some point on this show we'll have to agree to disagree, but
yeah, no, it's fine.
I mean,
it's totally fine.
It's so
move on here.
Yeah,
because, the chat is kind of annoyed too. So
we're all annoyed with a lot of things. Yeah. But yes, I mean, ultimately, I think it boils down to that. I think Arthur Smith and company want this to be a team with an aggressive mindset, and so I don't think it's just the analytics. I think they want this to be the team's mindset, and I think if that's the case, and they want it, this is just who they are, and it's not just based on numbers on a page, then I think it's going to work out for you sometimes, and it's going to burn you sometimes, and it certainly burned them today. But I don't even know if that was the biggest issue, because really I think the bigger coaching issue showed up on the interceptions and on the end of game penalties, because you look at the stats in this game, the Falcons absolutely shut down this Commanders offense. Nobody feels like that because they allowed 14 points, but the Commanders had short fields on 2 of their touchdowns and basically just had 10 yards to go after that return. The Falcons held the Commanders to 193 total yards, 121 passing yards, and just 72 rushing yards, 3.9 yards per play. The defense absolutely shut down the Commanders after that score in the second half, that one score. But this offense just has no room for error whatsoever. Like, they are so fragile. If they get behind the sticks, if they have a mistake, like, they just crumble. And I think a lot of that has to do with what I see as one of the biggest issues, not related to the coaching or Desmond Ridder, which is that the run game is just so inconsistent. Like, it's just so bad sometimes, and it's inexplicable. And part of it, I think, has to do with like what you brought up, Jordan, which is that they're telegraphing run plays with Tyler Algier. And they're not making Bijan the featured back. They're making Bijan a featured part of the offense by making him a receiver, essentially, which I think is cool and good long-term, but Bijan Robinson is not ready for this type of role. Like, let's just be completely honest here. They're having Bijan run option routes. They're having Bijan run a lot of difficult wide receiver type routes. he has not played wide receiver before. This is like a rookie running back you're having come in and asked to do some fairly advanced wide receiver stuff. Like, option routes are not easy for anyone to do, much less a rookie running back. And like, you're also seeing that he's just not a crisp route runner at this stage. Like, yes, he's a great athlete, but like that slant interception, like that was a terrible slant by Bijan. Like, absolutely abysmal. Like, and in fact, I think based on the coverage, he should have run the go, not the slant. So, I think there's a couple of things here that I want to touch on that I had thoughts on based on our previous conversation. So one is that I think this team is not going all out to win right now, because I think if they were, they'd be giving Bijan all the touches, and they'd be making Algier clearly the rotational back. They're not doing that. And like what Jordan mentioned, because Tyler Algier basically telegraphs a run play anytime he's in the backfield, he just limits their ability to be creative when he comes out there. When Bijan's out there, the whole playbook is open, and defenses really have to respect that. So I think that if they were really trying to maximize their chances of winning, they would be playing Bijan as the featured back. And so then the question becomes, why are you not trying to maximize your chances of winning? And and Arthur Smith has said this, like, he doesn't want to use up Bijan. He doesn't want him to get annihilated by all these carries and stuff like that. And I think the truthful answer is that I don't think they're going all out to win this year. And I think it's becoming more and more obvious with how they're doing various things. Not saying that they're not trying to win. They're trying to win, but they're not pulling all the levers, pulling all the stops. I think they're consciously playing this like this is a stepping stone year where they want to make the playoffs. They're trying to win 10 plus games, but they're not putting the pedal to the metal with the personnel like they could if they were trying to maximize.
I feel like that's very foolish if that's the case, especially because they talked in training camp about the 3-year plan and how, this is year 3 of the plan and how everything has to start coming together. I feel like the semantics of that are very, very dumb. I can't really come up with a better word than stupid. If you, and I mean, this isn't the first time that they would have lied to the fan base. Like they
that's what I'm saying. Don't
in the past.
believe. Yeah.
They talked in year 1 about how, we're not rebuilding. We're a win now team, and we're always a win now team, when this team was always clearly rebuilding the past 2 years. But I don't know. I feel like that especially now, like when the window is sort of open and when it's so important for you to, establish that upward momentum, I get it. I understand. I understand not wanting to bell cow Bijan Robinson and give him 30 touches a game, but I don't understand how you take him out off the field in some of these high leverage situations, or how you don't feature him in some of these high leverage situations where, I mean, we know that not every single touch is created equal.
Yeah.
Some touches are much more important. 3rd down touches, 4th down touches, some of those goal to go touches are much more important. And Tyler Algier, I don't understand why, like, you don't have to telegraph the run every time Tyler Algier is on the field. Tyler Algier isn't inept when it comes to catching the ball either.
No. Like, he's just not dynamic.
Yeah, he's not as dynamic as Bijan Robinson, but we've seen it last year. Like, it's dumb. I watched it on the Ravens game this morning with Todd Monken, where when they would get inside the 10-yard line on 2 different drives, he would take out Mark Andrews, he would put in Patrick Ricard, and then he would just run the ball 3 times. And it's like, obviously everyone knows that you're doing that. When the defense knows what you're going to do, you're cooked. Like, you're fucked at that point. And I don't know. I don't understand what they're doing. With this Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier thing.
There was another thing that please finish your thought. There's another thing.
I was going to say, it's just very frustrating because the defense deserves better. Like, the defense played out
so
of its
good.
The defense gave up 150 passing yards and 72 rushing yards in this game.
It was all short fields. It was just all short fields. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they were let down by the special teams unit once too. When Jameson Crowder got inside the 10-yard line, and it's like, what are you expecting now from these guys? They completely clamped down the fourth quarter, just like against the Packers, and they just gave you a chance, just like against the Lions, just like against the Texans. Whereas I feel like if this offense was just like a little closer to average, not even like elite, I feel like if this offense, if this offensive coaching was average, if this quarterback play was average, this team would probably be 5-1 right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one thing I'll say is like, there's one thing that I really have disliked in particular, and it's been a thing for basically the whole season, which is, why are we going to empty on 3rd and short? Like that is one thing that I really struggle with, because it just takes one part of your playbook completely out. And like, yeah, I know they want to do a bunch of weird schematic stuff, and they want to have the running back leak out and line up outside, but like, just the defense can just all of a sudden key in on the pass. Then it's like, why? Like, you're supposed to be this hard-nosed running team, and you're not having a running back in the backfield on 3rd and short. Like, what's the point of being this team known for your run game if you're not even going to bother to threaten the run on 3rd and short? Like, this team needs to threaten the run whenever they can to get space for the passing game. So it's like we've gone too far. It was like, okay, teams are starting to key in on the run. We got to start to open up the passing game. And that's true. And like, they have opened up the passing game. Like, sometimes like Ridder's catching a lot of heat, but like, he threw some great throws. He had some great passes this week, and they almost hit that Van Jefferson deep shot. Again, that's kind of wild that you throw that when he's been in the building for like 2 days. But like, Ridder threw for over 300 yards. Ridder threw for over 300 yards today.
Van Jefferson
he was open.
The defense there.
He was open.
So yeah, a couple of things here, and I want to start from the beginning.
Yeah.
One, let's cut the crap on the not winning this year thing. You had two 7-10 win seasons with a bad roster, and that last year, with some coaching decisions, I think we've all talked about it, it could have been better. You still could have made the playoffs. So there's no reason to go all in on winning this year. I want to start with that. Secondly, in terms of the running backs, I'm fine with how the running backs are split up in terms of carries and touches. I'm okay with it. I know we all love Bijan. We want to use him as much as possible. I want to see Bijan Robinson be a really good running back in this league, especially for the Falcons, for a long time.
Yeah,
I don't want to see him just do it for this year. Now, that being said, you can still put in Tyler Algier. Just because you put Tyler Algier in the game, though, doesn't mean you have to run Tyler Algier.
Right.
Where, like, again, Desmond Ridder, a younger quarterback. Let's make things more simple. What do the Eagles, I almost said Phillies. What do the Eagles do so well with Jalen Hurts that makes the game easier for him? And obviously, Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than Desmond Ridder at this point in their career. I'm not trying to make it,
not controversial. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. But it's, you put in the RPO game, right? Make the linebackers believe that there's something that they have to trust and have to attack. That opens up more passing windows. Let's do some easier things like that if you want to have certain packages in at certain times. And so that's part of the problem for me. And like I said, I know I'm going on a big coaching thing today, but I just have to, because I still feel like even, Casey Toohill, and I know we had this whole thing. Someone in the chat, I forget who it was last week, was talking about smart people can't play football. Well, two of the biggest playmakers for the Commanders today, one went to Duke, Jamison Crowder. The other, Casey Toohill, went to Stanford. So shout out smart guys. But you saw in the first half that the Commanders, they had their assignments of what they were going to do on any type of play action boot or any naked boot action. They are not going to bite on the rush. They are going to sit there and wait on Desmond Ridder to go out. So why is it then on the same time, one of the key moments in that second half, you run a similar action, you leave the end unblocked, thinking that he's going to influence down the line, that Desmond can outrun him. He doesn't, because that's what they're taught, but you don't pick that up from the first half, and you call a play that led to a sack.
Yep.
Like I said, it's just, there's certain times and certain moments in this thing for me, the feel is just off. And I don't know how you fix that, if there is a fix for it, but that all goes in, again, back to this whole point about the coaching staff and again, I think they are fully all in this to win this year. They better be. If
Well, that's
they
the
aren't,
big
Arthur
question.
Blank.
Like,
If they aren't Arthur Blank, you have some decisions you have to make. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna be very blunt and honest with that.
Well, if they're
But-
not all in to win this year, it's with a check mark from ownership. There's no way they're doing this without a check mark
like,
from Arthur Blank.
because
which is fair,
Smith-
but I don't think Arthur Blank's gonna check off on not trying to win this year.
Well,
I can't
it's-
see that. I can't see
Yeah,
that.
it's more like the difference between 90% and 100%, because I think you could make arguments that they're not pushing this thing to 100% right now. Now maybe that changes, but like they're not going all in basically. And like,
Well, what would you need in house then to go 100% all in?
right? I mean, it's like,
Based
well,
off-
are
based
they
off
going to
the-
make any trades? Right? I mean, like this is a little early for that, but like, are they getting like? And we haven't talked about the defense yet, but we've talked about it a lot. Daniil Hunter, he's sitting out there. He's on the market. He's
Yeah.
available. So if you're serious, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one
Again,
thing.
so,
That's
like-
one thing,
Like
yeah.
where I'm coming from again is like when you look at the totality of the picture right now I'll just look at the NFC, not even the AFC. I'm not even talking about Super Bowl. I'm just looking at our conference. Your division's not going to get any weaker than what it is right now. You have to win it now. Yes, I get how good San Francisco looks. We just saw them lose, right, on a missed field goal in Cleveland. Philly, they're still trying to figure things out with 2 new coordinators. If there was ever a time to like, hey, let's go in and see what we can do right now, it's now. You're never going to have a chance like this. This is the thing again with football. We talked about this on Trench Talk a few weeks ago. Windows outside of what Philly did in the early 2000s, making it to like 4 straight NFC championships, what the Patriots had done on multiple separate times of all the Super Bowl runs, early 2000s, then again in the 2010s, what the Niners have been able to do, making 3 NFC championships the last 4 years. Windows like that don't open. So when you have a chance to take advantage of any type of downplay or any type of weakness, you better do it.
Yeah.
So if this group, and again, I don't think this is the case, but I'm just saying, if this group, that's what they're trying to do is hold on and wait, let's move on.
And I agree. Like, it's just I'm not trying to say that they're not trying to win, because I think that's absolutely not true. But I the way they've constructed this team, going with kind of, a question mark quarterback situation, this is not an all-in season. So it's more like the difference between trying to win and trying to develop a young roster versus going all in. Like this isn't, they're not doing a Rams, they're not going all in. And I think it's pretty clear they're not going all in, but that doesn't mean they're not trying to make the playoffs and like taking it seriously. But, it's just one of those things where.
But that's also on them for punting on the quarterback position.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Like as much as they did, to the point where now it's like, we can talk about the limitations for Desmond Ridder. And I mean, I have been a very staunch Desmond Ridder critic on this show since training camp.
Noted Desmond Ridder hater, yes.
Noted. Very noted. But like, Desmond Ridder is your quarterback for a reason. Like, he is your quarterback because Arthur Smith decided, all right, this is my guy, and this is my guy. There's not going to be any training camp battle. I'm not even going to play him in the preseason. I'm going to treat him the way that I would have treated Matt Ryan in 2016, or coming off of his 2016 MVP season. And that just seems like a bit of an ego thing, a little bit with I think we can all agree that Arthur Smith has. Look,
you kind of have to as a coach, honestly, but yeah.
Yeah, you don't get this far coaching without an ego.
I understand that, but there's some coaches where their egos are an issue.
Like, it goes both ways. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's sort of a double-edged sword, and I don't know. I genuinely think that Arthur Smith is the type where, he thinks that no matter who his quarterback is going to be, he's going to put together a successful offense. And I respect the brashness, but I don't think that that's going to be true. Like, I think that a bad quarterback is going to severely limit any offensive team.
We're maybe learning that right now. But I also don't agree with that. Yeah.
I was going to say, though, that's fair. But again, we talked about question mark at quarterback.
Yeah.
The thing for me that's frustrating right now is the Falcons, going back to last year, made the question mark at quarterback. So if you're going to make the question, you better have an answer. How many times again did we talk about last year? Hey, let's see Desmond Ridder a little bit more just to see what we really have in him, what's there, what isn't there. So now going into this offseason, you can make decisions off what you need to do.
Yes.
You didn't do that. So it's just, hey, there's this 4-game sample. We got to go with it. So, you can have your opinion again on Desmond Ridder. I've seen what he can be.
Yes.
I think we've all seen what he can be, but I don't know if he can do that consistently yet or not. But my thing is, again, when you look at the Falcons and what they've done, they open themselves up for questions at quarterback. They're the ones that produce the question. If you're going to produce a question, you better have the answer, because right now it's obvious they don't, because I can't tell you the answer is you need a new quarterback or do you need new people and a new play caller making things happen. I don't know that answer yet.
And the reason why they didn't go to Desmond Ridder last year is because they had these delusions of grandeur of winning that division. Because they decided we're going with the veteran quarterback, Marcus Mariota. No, even though Mariota was not good. Like, Mariota was a bad quarterback last. I don't think I'm making a controversial statement
not a hot
right
take
now.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a hot take. And he still refused to pull the quarterback until after the bye week. Even though we were screaming for it after that Panthers game, you had the extra 3 days. You were on Thursday night. And, in the end, you actually didn't even get anything out of it, because Mariota lost his last, 4 or 5 starts in a row after we were calling for him to be pulled. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what with this. I don't know what the strategy is. Like, I don't know I don't know what they're doing from a coaching staff perspective, a head coaching staff perspective. Ryan Nielsen has my unwavering support right now, because
Ryan Nielsen is beyond reproach. His halftime adjustments have been so good. Like, I mean, he's about to be heating up for the head coach job here pretty soon. I'm just gonna hand it over to him.
He's gonna be heating up for some head coaching job.
Yeah.
Like, he's good. Like, if he continues this, he's gonna be a candidate somewhere sooner rather than later.
Yeah. But look, we do got to get to some of these donations. I appreciate everybody for chiming in with their comments. So we'll get to that in just a second. But Corey Carter definitely wanted to say, Jordan, he meant it as a joke. Absolutely, smart people can be good at football. So,
I'm just mad today, so I'm going to be
sure
mad regardless. That's just what it is. I'm just mad. All right.
Yep. So and it's like I'm still trying to suss out like what the plan was this year, because the plan was obviously to roll with Desmond Ridder, see what he can do. But like that, there's a 50% chance that like Desmond Ridder's bad, and then what happens then?
50%.
And I think there's a lot, like 50% Desmond Ridder's bad. 10% Desmond Ridder's a franchise quarterback. 20% Desmond Ridder's good.
Oh, okay.
20%,
that's
20% he's average, maybe. I mean,
like between a franchise quarterback.
No. It's like bad is 50%, and by far the biggest chunk. But there's also like some nuance with the other stuff. So
so it's a full blown pie chart. We love to see.
Yeah, it's a pie chart. Yeah, we'll get the chart for you on Wednesday's show. But
you don't spend all that money on defense this offseason if you're not trying to win this year.
Well, that's the thing too, and it's and the good thing is, like, outside of like Jeff Okudah, they're all long-term moves on defense. So like, it's not like this defense is gonna go up in smoke next year. However, defensive play is volatile year to year. We know that.
And they'll have more money. Like, they'll have more money this offseason than last year.
And that's why I'm bringing it up, because it's like, you don't do a stepping stone year like this unless you have 100% buy-in from ownership. And like, I'm not trying to accuse them of not trying to win, but I'm saying that winning this year at all costs, I think we're starting to see that that's not what they're doing. I think what they're trying to do is go into win this year, make the playoffs, but they're not going to mortgage 2024 or make any significant. I mean, they may still make a trade for somebody, don't get me wrong, but again, it's going to be for a guy like a Danielle Hunter that you can turn around and sign to a long-term deal or something like that. Like,
I agree. Like, I get that, and I get what you're saying. And the vast majority of teams are not in a position to mortgage, future picks the way that the Rams did a few years ago. But I do think that criticism is warranted. Like, you're pretty much saying they're not going to be all in this year, probably because they're not getting enough out of the quarterback position to win a Super Bowl. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Kevin. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the goal is to win a Super Bowl in 2024.
Okay. And I agree. I agree completely. But I do think some criticism is warranted for them getting to a position where their quarterback is who he is right now, to where you're not in this position, because these guys have had 3 years. Like
Yes.
this isn't all right. This is year one. They were just inherited this team. You have had 3 full off seasons now, and you've come out of it with a third round quarterback whom, again, I still think a lot of stubbornness and ego plays into why Ridder is the starting quarterback. I do not know how there was just a handoff to him of this job with absolutely no competition or no viewing how he is in the preseason against starters or whatever. But that's neither here nor there. But I do think that as a result, the coaching staff does deserve some criticism for them not being able to be in that position of going all in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing, because you don't have the quarterback set up, you can't this year. And I think they're playing it that way. And trying to protect, Bijan to some extent, and I think, look, like, them not going all in to win doesn't mean they're not trying to win. And I think what they're doing is they're trying to develop this roster. So you're getting Drake London and Kyle Pitts more snaps and getting them, all that stuff. There's a clear path here where Bijan Robinson is going to be a wide receiver. Like, he's going to play running back, but you don't give this guy that many. He's playing an insane amount of reps as a wide receiver. Like, the goal is clearly to make him an offensive weapon, like versatile running back, wide receiver, doesn't matter. The goal is for him to be one of their top 3 receivers. So, and to do that, like, he has to learn how to play wide receiver. And the best way to do that is to play wide receiver. And it hasn't been awesome all the time, but like, the flashes are clearly there. But again, that's another thing you do if you're more focused on building this team for the long haul than trying to win this year. And again, like, the fans are fed up, and you should be. Like, we've had 2 7-10 seasons with this regime. Like, the expectation is to win games. They believe they can still win enough games to get to a winning record and make the playoffs. And to be frank, like, there's still plenty of opportunity to do that. They're 3-3. It's not like they're in a big hole. They may only be a half
game back of the division right now.
Yes.
Like, by the end of the day, if the Lions
record-wise,
beat the Bucs,
it's not like you're in a crisis, but like, the record never tells the full story, because it's what is the story behind that record. And the story behind that record is that the offense is holding this team back from winning games week after week. Last week, nice time. But like, again, they had to come back to win that game offensively. This week, like,
I mean, last week they scored 21 points because, and again, that wasn't
and that was after
Desmond
so many
Ridder
mistakes.
had a great
also.
game last week, but the offense almost shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah,
to
same
the
thing.
Point
This
of no
week.
return again last week.
Yeah, and then again this week, like, yes, Ridder makes the mistakes. I think we agree that, like, at least one of those interceptions is probably more to blame on somebody else, and at least one of those interceptions is 100% Ridder. But like, they're just on the offense is sort of on the knife's edge right now, like, where just they can't afford to make any mistakes. But like, the passing game is at least creating volume now. Like, Desmond Ridder over 300 yards 2 straight weeks. Marcus Mariota never had a 300-yard game, I believe, with the Falcons. So the passing game, like, they're starting to at least get something going there. But you can't have the interceptions, obviously. And like, what about the run game? Like, this is, now that the passing game's going, like, run game, please, like, show up.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not like as hard on Ridder, because like, he's not getting help. Like, he wasn't getting help today, like, not from the coaching staff, not from the run game, and he made his mistakes. But like, you expect that from a young quarterback, but you need to elevate him. Like, you need to give him more. He's not Mahomes. He's not going to be out there elevating everyone else. You know who Desmond Ridder is.
So that's my point, and that's where I would caution people to tread lightly, excuse me, on this topic, in terms of how many weeks has it been now out of this season where we've said that about this offense, where it's, did Desmond Ridder play the best? No, he didn't. But right, there's always the but, that whether it's spacing in the route concepts, it's the offensive line, it's all these other different things. Like, I like, when I say and when I tell people I wish I could solely blame Desmond Ridder for the offense, being where it is, I say that in terms of, because there are other things that are supposed to be in position with this team that aren't right now. Right? Like, we thought this offensive line was supposed to be better, especially how it started the year. Hasn't been. We thought these last couple of weeks the run game was supposed to be better. It hasn't been. And to y'all's point, this is a group and a team where if you look at how they ran the ball last year, the quarterback was worse. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Marcus Mariota's worse than Desmond Ridder.
He is.
And the weapons that were around the quarterback were worse. So you should have more to think about as a defense than you have more to think about this year as a defense than you did last year.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, right now, the last 2 weeks, the run game isn't working. And then, of course, at the end of the day, like I said, it still goes back to the head coach because he's the one
comes back.
making the plays and play calling. So that's where I just say, like, I know, again, people want to look at this as a Desmond Ridder thing. I understand it. But I from what I've seen from Arthur Smith so far, I can't sit here and say, well, if he had a better quarterback, this would look a lot different. No, I can't say that.
It would look different, but like how much better, you know? Like,
well, different, sure. Better, I can't say that.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you put Mahomes in here, then Mahomes is probably covering up a lot of mistakes. But it's like, you can't just grab Mahomes and put him in this offense.
But
so like, if you put in like,
he can only cover up so much.
Well, yeah. So it's like, let's say like, if they trade for Kirk Cousins tomorrow, do these issues get fixed? I mean, that's the thing.
No.
That's what you're trying to say is like,
they might get worse.
Smith, Arthur Smith still has to call the right game, and you can't make these dumb mistakes. So, look, it's like it's time for everyone to shit or get off the pot because now we got a division game on tap. We got Ritter's home streak is broken. Maybe we can break the road streak too, right? I mean, Tampa Bay. I think that defense is a hell of a lot better than the Commanders. So
great defense.
So it's not going to be any easier, and you got to go on the road. So. Again, like sooner or later, you're going to have to shit or get off the pot on offense. Like last week, encouraging stuff. But again, even last week, they squeaked out that win, but it was constant mistakes like penalties. I mean, we talked about it. 3 field goal attempts were wiped out by dumb shit like fumbles, penalties. Like they're not playing clean on offense right now at all. And like that until they do, like it's going to be up to the defense to desperately try to keep this, desperately try to keep this going.
I mean, off the top of my head, I think we've scored 14 points per game this year.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's bad.
We're 3-3. Think about this. We are 3-3, and we've scored 14 points per game.
Yeah, that's how good the damn defense is.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, the reason why it's ridiculous for me is like usually when you look at a team, you want their personality. The personality of your team comes from who your head coach is. And so when I say that and how you perform, it's because if you have a defensive-minded head coach, your defense better be good. You have an offensive-minded head coach, your offense better be good. As we all know, we have an offensive-minded head coach. This offense isn't good enough.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of reasons why it isn't good enough. And so again, I will go back to the point of when you have a lot of reasons and not just one here or there, that's coaching.
Yeah.
And that's where we are.
Yeah. And I think, if this doesn't get significantly better, Dave Ragone's probably on the chopping block as a result as the sacrificial lamb, whether that's fair or not. I don't know what hand he has in this, but when your head coach is having to handle all the play calling too, that distracts from the time management stuff. So like you have to be able to handle it both if you're going to do both. And this week that was not good. So, all right, let me get to these donations, guys. Thank you so much for your donations. We appreciate that. We got George with the $2 says, "Oh, Desmond, my Desmond, why must you be so mid?" Yeah. What have we done as fans to merit such pain? Can we please draft Penix? Look, I like Michael Penix. It's just the medicals. Like I've always liked Michael Penix. He's been a good quarterback consistently, but his medicals are terrifying. So really, I mean, can he stay healthy this year? First of all, that would be good. And if he gets through it and he passes the checks, Michael Penix is probably one of the guys you're looking at in that like teens to early second round range because of the medicals that he might still be there. And I think he's interesting. I do. I know you probably have Penix takes because Pac-12. So
he's the best quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, he's really like it's not the play that's the question. It's not.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, like it's just the medicals.
Shocker.
Yeah.
Well, which is fair, but again, it's like shocker. If you can protect your quarterback, they can play for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Caleb Williams is super talented. Talented. I understand.
Higher ceiling probably, just because. Yeah.
Maybe, but I think even with that point, if you watch how he plays, sometimes like he'll put himself in harm's way, which to a certain standpoint for a quarterback or just a player in general, that's hard to teach somebody out of. I think in terms of, you just look at a quarterback, someone that can throw the ball, not afraid to make every single throw, the arm strength, the accuracy to make every single throw. Michael Penix is that guy to me.
Yeah. No, I love Michael Penix. He's definitely one to keep an eye on. Yeah, he's one to keep,
and
that name, so much mean potential. Yeah.
Yeah, I genuinely think he may be, like, I mean, what would it be a stretch to say he's a Heisman front runner right now?
Yeah,
No,
I think he is.
Not at all. Not, yeah. I mean, especially after the game that Caleb Williams just had. I mean, if you want to make the Drake May argument, I hear it. But for me, it's Michael Penix.
Yeah, because of those athleticism, it's still gonna be Caleb Williams, Drake May, the first two quarterbacks.
I mean, we're not gonna be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, so I do think Penix. Yeah, I think Penix is gonna be in range, possibly in range for this team, where they could potentially trade up, or if they keep playing the way that they're playing, maybe they don't even have to trade up to draft them. But we'll see.
I'm not going to make any comments on that yet. But
I know it's not draft season, but I think Penix is sort of a realistic option.
I think if you had to put money on a quarterback to the Falcons right now, it would probably be Penix, just because of where he's projected to go. So I wouldn't hate it. It's just the medicals, honestly. Like, I have no problem with Michael Penix otherwise. Great passer. We got Ro Stackson with the $2. Thank you, Ro. He says, Ridder can't keep turning the ball over. Awful. Yep, I like that one, Ro. Short and sweet, to the point. We definitely agree with you there. Chris24M with the $5. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Says, I think on that last play, Bijan should have run the go route instead of the slant. I think you're right, Chris. I think that may have been an option route. Obviously, we don't know the call. And again, like, putting option routes on a rookie running back, that's a lot. And yes, I think based on where the linebacker was, clearly the linebacker was playing the slant. If it's an option route, you're supposed to then take the go. And Bijan did not, and he ran a bad slant also, so that doesn't help. But yeah, I mean,
held a little bit, but
he did get held. But yes, I mean, it's, if you make the right decision there, that might be a touchdown. But again, we're not playing the ifs and buts game at this point. We got Corey Carter with the $2 saying, Arthur Smith seems very emotional on the sidelines, and his demonstrative reactions make me think that he is feeling the pressure. I wonder how much the emotions he's feeling influences his play calling. He sure doesn't seem to be afraid of getting second guessed. And Corey, play calling is emotional. Especially you're in the game, you're down there on the sideline. There's a lot that goes into choosing the play, and emotion is definitely one of those things. And for Arthur Smith's sake, he shouldn't be afraid of getting second guessed, because the second you start second guessing your own play calls, you're done. You're cooked. You have no chance, because if you don't have trust in your own self, you can't be an NFL head coach. If you lose confidence in yourself, it's done. So he has to commit, and if he thinks these crazy plays are what he needs to do, then he needs to commit and keep doing it. And we will just have to hope that it works. But being confident is not the same as being arrogant. So during the game, you have to just commit to what you're going to do and do it and not second guess. But after the game, during your preparation the next week, that's when you go back and look and say, okay, maybe this wasn't the right call. Maybe in another situation, I'll do this instead. You can still learn from those mistakes while being confident. It's just during the game, you can't second guess. It's the week of prep after that where you go back and look at what happened. That's where you can make those changes and make those adjustments and hopefully improve your decision-making going forward. But yeah, it's tough. We got George Costanza with the $2 once again. Thank you, George. He says, when you're trailing, the number one goal you want to do is extend the game. Going for 2 in that situation does not extend the game. Taking the points and trying to get another touchdown to tie does extend the game. Overtime is just fine when you're the one trailing. And yes, that's definitely Jordan. I think that's your sort of mindset with that 2-point was you don't know how many more possessions you're going to get. So if we only have 2 possessions, we need to make sure we tie so we get another possession to win. Whereas the more aggressive approach was the one that they took was we want to win the game on 2 possessions, not just tie for a chance at a third one. And, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it, and that's a great point by George. But my other point was just have a feel for what's going on in the game. I fully believe with how the game was going, how the defense was playing, boom, you get the touchdown, extra point, we're down by 7. We all know how the crowd in Atlanta gets once things start rolling too. they've like the shout out the crowd in the Benz, because for the most part this season they've really been locked in and invested. And so you kick that extra point's good. That first drive back out for the defense, this is that point in the game where they're going to start playing "We Ready" by Archie Eversole, may he rest in peace. And they keep singing it even when the song goes off, right? Like, they're going to make all this noise and make things happen. That defense is going to either get a turnover, get the 3 and out, but you let some of that momentum go out the building by going for 2 and not getting it. That's what I'm saying, that's where I really didn't like it, because it was momentum was all Falcons. You remember, I forget if it was Mad or NCAA back in the day where they had the momentum meter.
Yep.
And like what happens in the game, it'll go this way or that way. The Falcons were this close to having it fully them, and then you'd miss and it starts trending back this way. And that's where I talk about the feel of the game, and where you have to have that play into that too.
Yeah, it's sort of the difference between like getting the kick. It doesn't really it takes the pressure off your offense, but going for 2 puts the pressure on the opposing team. So like in that scenario, it's like, what would have been better? Like reducing the pressure on your offense or increasing the pressure on the opponent? And like, that's where the big debates come in. I was like, what would be better? And it depends on game situation, your opponent, and all these things. But, it seems like in this situation, it ratcheted up the intensity on the Falcons offense by failing. And, maybe that had something to do with the jitters, but I mean, we don't know. Like, they clearly were not on their shit late. So maybe if they didn't feel the pressure from that decision, maybe it's a little bit different. I don't know. We got Corey Carter with the $2 reminding us that Arthur Smith has gone for 2 in that same situation before, most notably Tampa last year. Also like seeing Newsel out there on some run plays. I love seeing Ryan Newsel. It was a little interesting.
That was pretty cool.
He did hit that one hole pretty well, but Newsel, let's get some news flash going. I always enjoy that. Corey also says Drake London would still be holding on to that catch if they didn't pull him off in that fight for the interception. That was a great play. You love the intensity from Drake London. Drake London, best game ever, maybe. Yardage wise, 125 yards.
125. I was
9 for 125.
9 catches.
Yeah,
it was up
that's
there.
what I'm saying. Like, yeah, I mean,
that
it's
was
like
a good play. Like, Ridder baited them offside. Like, Ridder got him in the neutral zone a few more times, just like he did last week. He baited him offside, did exactly what you're supposed to do there. Threw it up for his receiver, knowing that it's a no risk play. And Drake London went up there and got it.
Yeah, we got Craig Thomas with the 5. Oh, go ahead. Did you have something else before I get to?
I was gonna say I hope London is okay, because he came off a big gimpy on that last drive.
He did come back in. Yeah,
he did, but that's one of those where it's like hopefully it'll be one of those like not many limited practices, because we need a full go for Tampa Bay next week. Yeah,
and also I want to shout out London, who got up a little bit hobbled on the play that you're talking about, knows that he's hurt, or maybe, I don't know if he was cramping or what, but he doesn't go down. Instead, he goes and lines up, and that saved a timeout. Like, if he had gone down, it would have been a timeout. So,
which they wasted anyway.
Yes, but still,
on another play clock,
yes, but he still gets credit because he did the right thing. He gutted it out. He actually went and made a block, even hobbled after that.
Yeah.
So good for him. Tough gutted out play.
But
by
we
London.
didn't even mention how following a spike, they literally wasted their last time out.
That's what I'm saying. And that's what we emphasized earlier in the show, which was this was not just Ridder's problems. This is a full-on offensive blaming, including, I think the wide receivers are mostly not to blame, but Arthur Smith screwed him. Drew Dahlman had some bad snaps, and then Ridder, of course, contributed with the picks himself. But this is far from a Ridder disaster class. This is honestly, Ridder, I think, the passing game was doing fine outside of the picks. The passing game was moving the ball. They were in position to score multiple times, and then you just have the back-breaking mistakes. So, look, if they can at least, it's better that they're throwing 300 yards and 3 interceptions than throwing 100 yards and 3 interceptions, like the Week 4 game, for instance. At least they're getting some production out of the passing game, but you can't make those mistakes. We all know that. And you can't have your head coach making it harder on your young quarterback, who has been a little bit mistake prone so far in his career. So you can't have that. Also, we got Craig Thomas with the $5. Thank you, Craig. Says, for real though, why does Arthur Smith not integrate RPOs into the scheme? Ridder was fantastic running the RPO in college. There have been
That's
a
what I was talking
few,
about
but
earlier.
not. There have been like a few hints of the RPO, and I think on the times they've actually done it, it's been successful. I think Arthur Smith is just not familiar with it, and I think Dave Ragone is not either. But they need to be, because if you're serious about making Ridder your quarterback, that was one of his best traits, and we mentioned this before, Jordan. Like, you need to start incorporating that if you're serious about giving Ridder a shot, because that is something he was really comfortable with in college. If you want to give him the best chance to succeed early on, you should make an offense around his strengths. So puzzling that they haven't really done it much.
All of the best play callers, in my opinion, whether it's offense or defense, I'm just speaking in general right now, you learn how to pick up certain things from somebody else, right? Or you learn how to add or to adapt to whether it's the times, personnel you have, you name it, things like that. So again, we talk about not even Desmond Ridder being a good RPO quarterback in college. He's a young quarterback. What do we always talk about? Make the game for a young quarterback as easy as you possibly can. And if that is the case, you need to take something from a Cincinnati playbook, you do it. If it's something else, you do it. But I just don't see that happening as often. Now, again, early on in this game, I know I'm piling on Arthur Smith. I want to give him some credit in this game. The way the game was called, the way some of those schemes were dialed up early in the game, it's like, okay, looks like we're building on that momentum from last week.
Yes.
I like what I'm seeing. I like this. But as the game went on, it kind of tailed off. It was almost the reverse of what we've seen from the Falcons in terms of, we have been asking the Falcons for weeks, can you please have an early start? Can you please get going early? And then they bounce back later. This week it was, first drive touchdown. We're going early. And then because of certain decisions and whatnot, what have you, it started tailing off towards the end.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing about Arthur Smith that gives me hope, is that he does have some really, really nice play calls and some really creative stuff. And like, I love that he's trying to innovate. It's just, it hasn't been clean. And like, I think it's like, you need to sort of pull back some of that stuff to help your young quarterback. Like, if you're trying to run this with prime Matt Ryan, I'm sure Matt Ryan would get all this stuff down in training camp and be able to execute everything at a high level and go through 3 progressions and all this stuff. But asking Ridder to do that every snap while the pass protection's a little bit iffy, and like, it's just, it hasn't worked out super well. And you know, I think you watch the QB school, which I'll shout out again. You know, those have been some great videos sort of looking at it. And you'll see some great route combinations, some really creative stuff from Arthur Smith. And then you'll see some where it's just muddy. You know, it's just guys are in the same area. And it's like, is that Arthur Smith like calling a poor game, or is that receivers not, you know, running the right route? Like what we've seen, and I think part of the reason Van Jefferson was brought in is like they're having Mac Hollins run a clear out, and it's like he's not getting enough depth for the clear out to work. So it looks like there's 3 receivers right in this one area, but really the clear out should be 20 yards downfield. So, and we saw that today with Van Jefferson. He ran a lot of the routes that he ran were just straight goes or whatever, or he's clearing out space for these shorter routes. And like, maybe that's just something that was partially the play calling, but partially like the personnel, because they just weren't willing to use Scotty Miller like that. So maybe that's something that gets better as Van Jefferson gets more incorporated. They clearly want to throw the ball deep. I mean, they tried that one pass to Van Jefferson that was pretty close to being a touchdown. A little surprised they threw it, given that he's been in the building for like 3 days at this point. But I like the aggressiveness. We just need to hit that stuff, honestly. So we got George Costanza with the $2 once again. Are we sure Tom Brady can't come back for one more run? I would, even if he wanted to play in Atlanta, I would not do it. Like, no, never. Nothing good can come of that. Like, it would be, he would sign here for like big money and then be awful. Like, just that's because Tom Brady does nothing but hurt this franchise. So
all I would say is this: if, right, then this is just an if you did, let's just play the game for a second, right? And this will be my last point, and I got to head out after this. If you did bring in Tom Brady, and then all of a sudden you see Tom Brady arguing and fighting with Arthur Smith on the sideline, who are you going to blame?
Right.
You know, like that. And I just asked that question because you even saw Dez in point like later in this game get frustrated. I think a lot of that had to do with the timing of when play calls were getting to the huddle and when they were able to get to the line of scrimmage. But We've seen Tom Brady plenty of times get into it. I can't believe I'm having this conversation right now.
Let's not.
But
Let's not. Let's just...
we like I said, we've had Tom Brady. We've seen Tom Brady plenty of times get into it with play callers and whatnot on the sideline. So if people are telling you now there might be a question, is not more so the quarterback as it is play calling and the coaching. You put someone in that you know is going to get on the coaching when they're wrong. What are you going to say then? Like I said, last thing I had to say for that. Appreciate everybody.
Yep.
Love you guys. Shout out everybody in the chat,
yep.
and we will see y'all soon.
Yes, thank you, Jordan, for the extended edition today. Guys, he's at Big 75 Fellow. Jordan, well, I'll talk to you soon for our next Trench Talk. So look forward to that.
Absolutely. See you then.
Jordan.
All right, Adnan, let's get through the rest of these donos. Thank you guys. Like, we appreciate all the donos. I apologize it's taking a while. Just the volume is so high. So, which is a good problem to have. But we have like 20 or 30 of them, and we want to give, obviously, enough attention to each one of these. So we'll appreciate you guys' patience on that. We got M. Harden with the $10. Thank you, M. Harden. Says, the thing is, Ridder did throw for over 300 yards and 2 TDs, so I think, honestly, he's doing okay. My gripe is with the coach. His play calling is suspect at best. Yes, like, I think we can say, like, Ridder did actually have a decent game passing today. It's the mistakes. And, like, as we've said, some of the mistakes, one of them was a miscommunication. One of them, he got kind of hosed by Bijan doing maybe the wrong thing, but also just wasn't great. And then there was one where he just threw it into the end zone, which was terrible. That was 100% on him. So
the lows are very low, but
yeah,
again, like I said, I'm not bearing Desmond Ridder for this performance today because like he needs to clean up the mistakes. There needs to be, less turnover worthy plays. That was a big gripe with Desmond Ridder. Like he has to be the guy who takes care of the ball, but he just wasn't helped. Like he wasn't helped at all today, and it's hard to extensively blame him for the troubles today. Like it's different against the game against Jacksonville, for example, where he was just throwing the ball to the other team. Like
it was not anywhere near that bad.
Like that today was, if Ridder plays like that minus the mistakes, you take that throughout the entire season.
Yeah. All right, we got Solaire, aka Guy Fieri, with the $2. He says, "Guys, we just suck." I think the scapegoat at the end of the season will be Dave Ragone. Though I don't expect any firings at the end of this year. We will see. To be honest, I'm less mad at this game than the other losses. Sometimes you just have to shrug. Yes, ultimately, Solaire, I think it's not quite as, it's in some ways it's more angering, in some ways it's less, because it's like they literally had like 3 shots to win this game at the end, and then it's just stupid stuff. So it's like they're in position, so that's nice. At least you're in position to win. And coming back from down 14, I mean that is no small task. They had an opportunity to do so and they did not. But yeah, tough spot there. And yes, I agree. Like if anyone's probably getting scapegoated, it's probably Dave Ragone. Maybe deservedly so, maybe not. I don't honestly know. But all right, we got Craig Thomas once again with the 5. Thanks, Craig. He says, Ridder's game is confidence and letting it rip. Hate to see Falcons fans tear him apart. You're only hurting yourselves. Your receivers have no separation. And the separation thing, there is something to that. Like, Drake London's not really a separation guy. Matt Collins not a separation guy. Kyle Pitts should be a better separator. You can tell he's not 100% healthy. So, like, I think they were sort of depending on him to be
you could
a
see
speed
it
guy.
on his catch and run. Like, you saw it on his catch and run. Like, he was not...
He didn't have the final gear.
He was.
Yeah,
he wasn't moving the way he was in his rookie year. Like, you can tell that he's not 100% recovered from that MCL injury, no matter, what they try to say. Like, what you see on the field speaks for itself.
Yeah. So, Van Jefferson hopefully is able to come in and provide some juice. It seems like they wanted to immediately start targeting him, which is a good sign. And he's a very good route runner too, that can play both in the slot and outside. So he could probably get more snaps than like a Scotty Miller, who I think is just a more limited player with what you can do. So I think the hope is that Van Jefferson can sort of be a piece that not only runs those clear outs better and gets more space with those, but also is someone that maybe can get a few of those deep shots. And he has some ability to contribute on the short intermediate area too, because of his route running. So we'll see how he gets incorporated over the next few weeks. George Costanza with the $2 says, sometimes we hate the Drake, but right now we love the Drake. Big fans of the Drake. That is, I actually understand that reference now, George. I have seen the show. So great job there. We got Jason Gaines with the $2. I'll tell Jason, I'll have to tell Jordan this one on Trench Talk. But he says, congrats to Jordan Stanford Cardinal in the Pac-12 for overcoming that 29-point lead. From now on, it needs to be known as pulling a Colorado, 28-3, no more. Never heard of anything like that. Yeah. Yeah. Disappointed in the loss today. Smith and Ridder need to fix the issues.
The rails have come undone for Colorado after that, quick start to the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was obviously too much hype, but yeah, I wasn't expecting them to crash quite as hard as they have also. But, we got George with one final one here. Thanks everyone for hanging out. $2 from George. He says, last thing I'll mention, I know you guys want to get out of here. Yes, thank you, George. Is anyone else just completely flabbergasted at how slow the play calling is getting sent in, that debacle with the spike, and then the timeout at the end, or is it just me? Oh, yeah. No, that is absolutely one of the... It can't continue.
It's amateur hour. It's amateurish from the coaching staff. I don't think that this is a Desmond Ridder issue. Genuinely, you can tell. I think he's getting the play calls late, and then his center is not snapping the ball to him on time either. I don't want to give Drew Dahlman a pass for this. I don't want to put this all specifically on Arthur Smith. I think Drew Dahlman has his share of blame here, and it's a real share of the blame because his snaps have got to be fucking better. He's not a good enough blocker to be fucking up the snap like that.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of blame to go around, and you obviously can't have a late play call and snap issues. It's just, it all really fell apart around Ridder today. And honestly, last week, what did we see? Where the offense made a ton of mistakes and Ridder just overcame them. And today, obviously, Ridder was part of the mistakes too. But once again, the rest of the team is sort of letting him down. I know it's trendy to hate on Ridder, but guys, I think these last two games, it's really not Ridder's fault at all. So
it's not. And I mean, I would be the first one to tell you, oh, it's Desmond Ridder's fault. I was after.
Noted hater on Adnan Ikic. Yeah.
But I mean, genuinely, Desmond Ridder is if we continue getting what we got from Ridder the past 2 weeks, this team will be fine.
Yeah. That won't be the problem.
This team had chances, chance after chance after chance in this game, and they just did not get it done. The offense just kept pissing away chance after chance after chance. It's just it was just very frustrating to watch.
Yeah, it is. So, guys, we'll be back with more takes, obviously, this week. Going to be a tough week, but we've got, what's probably going to be an absolutely crucial division game here coming up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who, I mean, we'll see how this shakes out this week, but we did see the Saints and Panthers both lose. So, Falcons haven't lost ground in the division yet. We'll see what happened. Let's see what happens with the Lions and Bucks. I do think that the Lions have a pretty good chance in that one. I haven't seen the score recently.
They're up 10-3 and they're driving the ball. But yeah, I mean, look, the thing is, this isn't an utter catastrophe. The season isn't lost. If the Bucks lose to the Lions this week, which I mean, there's a decent chance because the Lions are really good. The Lions look like a legitimate contender in the NFC. I would not pick them over the Niners or Eagles. But I also, as of right now, wouldn't be shocked if they upset the Eagles, or the Niners actually.
Right.
But shout out to Dan Campbell and what he's doing over there in Detroit. But if the Buccaneers lose today, and the Falcons, go to Tampa and win next week, you're first in the division.
Yeah.
You are first in the division, no matter what New Orleans does, because you'll have the tiebreaker over them. And the Saints lost to the Texans today.
Yeah.
So, shout out to CJ Stroud.
Good job, Houston.
Great job, Houston. Thank you for that, Houston. And the Saints are playing on Thursday night this week.
Yeah.
They're facing a very frisky Jacksonville Jaguars team, which has figured their shit out since playing the Falcons. The Falcons looked like they were a get-right game for them. So, you could be you're just one win away. You're one win away from just the vibes being very good again.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and then
there's still time.
Which
I
get it.
The schedule's easy as shit. I mean,
I picked the Titans to win in the preseason, but the Titans look like absolute shit today. And I mean, Ryan Tannehill may or may not play in that game. He got hurt.
Yeah. So it's the schedule is really easy. So we say all of this because we're obviously here to critique the team But like the schedule is easy. Like they have a chance to absolutely, they can afford to scuffle a little bit, particularly against the Commanders, who, like, statistically speaking, and like roster wise, like people, I mean, I was expecting the Commanders to be a wild card team, so like I was surprised by their slump. I'd had a great conversation pregame with George Carmy with the Commanders, and it was like, this is a thing that they do every single year under this coaching staff, where the defense just sucks for like the first 4 or 5 games, and then they just all of a sudden turn it on. And they didn't exactly turn it on today, but I mean, 3 picks, like they definitely did enough, even though the Falcons carved them up yardage wise. So like the Commanders are not a joke. Like, and yes, they allow a lot of sacks, but like Sam Howell obviously isn't playing terribly. And their wide receivers are awesome. I mean, like Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, like great receivers there. So like the team is not a joke. So like that's actually, other than the Bucs, like probably the hardest team they're going to play over the next like 4 or 5 games. So, you know, you just got to win. You can't now start losing to the bad teams too. Like you're going to have to start beating people sooner or later. So, I mean, we need them to sort of bounce back and beat a team in the Bucs that's probably going to be pretty favored in this one. So, that would be nice. Like we need them to now bounce back again, unfortunately. This week.
This was the first incorrect game.
Yeah,
in my
first one.
Game by game predictions.
Yep.
And, you know, I had them losing to the next 2, but, you know, hopefully they win one or both, and then they're back on track.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said earlier, maybe, you know, the home streak was broken. Maybe we can break the road streak as well. So George says, sorry, Adnan, that we can't go to the World Series game this year. Maybe next year. Maybe this time we'll get the wild card so we don't take the 5 days off.
Don't get me started on the fucking Braves. I don't even blame the time off. That's just that would,
yeah.
Don't get me started on like the Braves. The Falcons cannot disappoint me this year the way that the Braves disappointed.
Please,
it's literally not possible, because I don't have those types of expectations for the Falcons.
Yeah.
Like genuinely, it's like the Braves this team was good enough to win it all. Like this team this was the best team in baseball. And then they went out there, best offense ever regarding OPS and home runs, and they just completely laid an egg. It was it was terrible, and now you have to go through a whole nother year of taking that shit from Philadelphia fans.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. All right, guys, before we take off, want to get you a quick word from our sponsor, Prize Picks. Checking in on this week's picks, which unfortunately didn't go super great. We did, of course, crush the Bijan Robinson receiving number. It was just 24.5. He actually got 22 on one play early and then easily cruised to that. So we got the more on that one. Unfortunately, Logan Thomas, who was the tight end I took for the over, who had I think, like 40 or more yards in each of his past 4 games, had 3 yards today. So that one obviously did not work out. And then Younghoe Koo with the more than 7 fantasy points. The Falcons just completely crapped the bed. I think Koo would have easily hit that with just another extra point. And they just couldn't get anything done. So, you know, tough break there, but you know, it happens sometimes in this. But thanks again to Prize Picks for sponsoring the show. Just so you guys remember, Prize Picks is daily skill-based daily fantasy. You pick 2 to 6 players, decide if they'll go more or less than their projection. The more guys you go with, the more you can win, all the way up to 25 times your money on any entry. And at Prize Picks, you're competing against the projections, not against other people. So it's a little bit different than your traditional daily fantasy there. Lots of generous promotions. Check back on Taco Tuesday and Flex Friday for some special numbers there for the players. It's also not just NFL, so if you like NBA, that's starting up. NHL, PGA, all that stuff is available, and you can make those entries in 60 seconds or less. And there's fast withdrawals. It's that easy, guys. Just make sure if you do sign up to use our promo code DBB, that will get you a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. That means if you throw in 100, Prize Picks will match and give you 100. If you deposit 50, Prize Picks will match and give you that 50. Make sure to just use our promo code, though, DBB. And guys, once again, really appreciate everyone for hanging out with us. Another tough game this week. Hopefully the Falcons can hop back on the horse and get this big dub against the Bucs, because that would, you know, if the Bucs do, like what Adam was saying, if the Bucs do lose this week, that would not only give the Falcons, it would give the Falcons first place in the division no matter what if they win next week. So either way, even if the Bucs win this week, that's a huge game for the division if they can get that first win, because that opens the possibility that you sweep, so you can beat them with a tie. So we'll see how that goes. But tougher game, I think, coming up in this one. So, they're going to have to get their shit together. We know that. But, guys, thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again to Adnan Ikic at Say Which Way for sticking with us all through this one. Adnan, anything else you want to let the people know about before we sign off?
No, fantasy stud and dud will probably go sometime tomorrow.
Cool stuff there. Guys, I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin. Thanks again for checking us out.
Shout out to Kyle Pitts. Got a touchdown.
Yes. Good for Kyle Pitts.
Buried early in that game, but hey,
yes.
Pitts got a touchdown. The fantasy people can shut up about it.
Yes, there you go. Everyone, we can crush that particular narrative. But guys, thanks again. Please like, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Leave us that 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. We'll see you guys in just a couple days for the next episode of Trench Talk with Jordan and I. And then we'll be back, of course, on Wednesday night for more Falcoholic Live. Until then, folks, have a great day. Thanks.